Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BD Now channel. I am thrilled to have Deliana Gamez from BCU. She's the Director of Corporate Relations with us today to talk about her framework that she's built for her SEG relationships. Hi, Deliana.
Hey, Julie, thanks for having me today.
Oh, I'm so excited. Can you share with the group a little bit about your role at BCU?
Yeah, as you mentioned, the Director of Corporate Relations, and my role and primary responsibility is to manage and grow our SEG relationships.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's hear about this framework. So here's the plan. We're going to walk through the pillars of the framework that you've built. You can share a little bit with us, but can you share first why you decided to build a framework, you and your team at BCU?
Yeah, absolutely. So BCU developed this framework really to identify the important quantitative and qualitative areas that make up a successful SEG relationship. We also use this framework as a guide for anyone managing SEG relationships, and it also helps us socialize with the rest of the organization from the top down, how everyone contributes within their roles for that bigger picture of growth.
That's
And
great.
then,
Oh, go
oh
ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
no, I was going to say I'd love to walk through some of those pillars with you and share them.
Do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So of course, first and foremost, financial well-being with a lot, which is a focus for a lot of us in the credit union space. But some other really key pillars that we identified was having advocacy beyond HR, looking at the historical performance of each of our SEG relationships throughout the years, the quality of the data that we have together, and then really important for us is like the access to communicate to their employees, as well as being included and finding that inclusion throughout all the benefits, communication, and programming.
I love how comprehensive it is and that you've thought of all of the components. I'd like to just ask a question about the leadership piece of it, because I know you shared with me when we were talking once about your CEO really leaning in to those SEG relationships. And so, can you give us an example of when that's happened and kind of what the philosophy is around that?
Yes, absolutely. So our CEO, Mike Valentine, and even Dave Blum, who's our Executive Vice President of Corporate Services and U.S. Service Centers, they're always willing to jump in on a meeting, make a phone call, send an email to any of our partners. They even love to encourage bringing our our SEG contacts together to idea share and always bouncing off different strategies with one another. They love being involved, and they show that through their leadership. Not only does the corporate relations and business development team maintain SEG contact relationships, but so does our CEO, and so do a lot of our leaders within the organization, because we know the reason why we're growing and who we are, and our identity is really based off the strength and the fruitfulness of each of single one of our SEG relationships.
Deliana, you're giving a great shout out to, 2024, all those leaders out there.
Yes.
Dive into business development and get more involved because it does really make an impact. Can you share a
Absolutely.
story, Deliana, about one of the levers maybe and how you've really leaned into it and the outcome and results that you've had because of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So although BCU works with a lot of big SEG partners like Target, United Health Group, and Geico, we have some other SEG partners on our book of business that we want to create stronger engagement with. One of those being CVS Health. We really leaned into the pillars of, access and communicating with their employees, also coupled with financial well-being. It allowed us to really collaborate not only with CVS Health leadership, but our marketing internal business development team on launching a nationwide campaign that went to over 317,000 of the CVS Health colleagues across the US and Puerto Rico. And the focus was really having them join BCU and using all the awesome tools that we have, like Savvy Money, that helps them improve their credit through those products and services that we offer.
Great. Oh, we love our friends at Savvy Money, don't we?
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So some of you out there are saying, what? Who has SEG groups with what, 317,000 employees? So I can think of maybe 5 or 10 credit unions in the country that actually have that number of employees. So well done on that program. Can you talk a little bit about the channels that you used? Because many of us, when we do SEG activities, we might use 1 or 2 channels, but what you did, you use, I don't know how many, but several different channels to reach out to those
Mhm.
employees. And I think that had to have had a big impact. So can you talk a little bit about the different channels?
Yeah, so it was a multi-channel approach. The biggest and more costly channel was we did a direct mail to all the households, all the employees of CVS Health in the United States and Puerto Rico. But in addition to that, we learned what their internal channels are and how they communicate. So they have a service that kind of sends a text message of any important messaging or certain offers to all employees, their internal banner ads, posters for distribution centers. I mean, everything in between, no matter what area you worked at CVS Health, whatever way you got information, we made sure our marketing was moldable and agile to be in those spaces.
I mean,
Mhm.
to be able to have that access is amazing.
Mhm.
So, can you speak a little bit to who did you build relationships with there? Because I know many of us are like, and I know when I was doing business development, I
Mhm.
would just be happy if someone responded back and I got a little piece of access. But it sounds like you have a ton of access. So who are you building relationships with, and what's your approach? Are you just consistent? How do you share the value? Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing to deepen those relationships with those key people that can say,
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
talk to our employees, you have value?
That's a great question. And I don't think there's necessarily a step process. It does take a lot of consistency, a lot of showing value. So that means you have to create multiple decks. You have to ask for time to show them, hey, these are programs, these are offers that we have. I focused really with human resources and benefits. But once I started there, in order to get this as a collaborative campaign together, I worked with their internal marketing team, their communications team. I mean, we learned even CVS Health's branding, got their brand guide to know, kind of the best way for us to make our own marketing so that the colleagues in CVS Health felt like this was a part of my company. This is an actual offer. So it's like, I got in every space of that team, but really HR focused, but a lot of inroads with their communications and their marketing team as well.
So you really got to know the organization. That reminds me of,
Mhm.
I'm throwing it back quite a few years, but when I was doing business development at First Tech, I asked to go through the new employee orientation at Microsoft, and it was
So cool.
fascinating. I learned so much in that one day, hands-on,
Yeah.
at office event, and it really helped me kind of position myself. And so really finding ways, asking for the brand guide, getting to know
Mhm.
them. It allows you to present things that maybe they will say yes to. It's more likely
Mhm.
a yes, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels like it's a part of their employment. It's not just a
Mhm.
solicitation. And I think that's
Yeah,
really important is knowing your SEG partner's brand and their identities and making two worlds come together.
yeah, yeah. And you shared with me too that some of your SEG groups, they will even share with you data, new hires. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely. We kind of take the heavy lifting off. HR and benefits has to communicate every single benefit under the sun that they offer. So we take that heavy lifting off of them. Any new hires that come through, we are able to market to them just to remind them of the benefit. Of course, it's an agreement based off with us in the organization. We're not sending them, frivolously marketing emails, but making sure those new hires know that this benefit's available. And this is a great way to send a place to send their paycheck. They get paid early. They have all the bells and whistles. So we really like that partnership, especially with new hire and being able to share that data.
That's great. That's like dream status for
Yeah.
us in BD. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting that
Yeah.
information and being able to communicate directly. Well done. Well done.
Yep.
Can you go through the pillars one more time? And then I want
Mhm.
you to speak just a little bit to, if you are a smaller, mid-sized credit union in a smaller community, not beautiful Chicago, um, another beautiful place around the
Yeah.
country, and you're serving the community, how would you, as a business development manager, director for one of those organizations, apply this? Would you change the pillars? What would you do to apply this? because not all of us have, the
Mhm.
CVSs and the large SEG groups that you have. But
Mhm.
I feel like this is applicable with some changes to all organizations.
Absolutely. So just going through the pillars, and I'll kind of change them based off if I were a community credit union. So of course, financial well-being, I think, is really important for all credit unions across the United States, but also having advocacy beyond just certain centers of influence in the community, other groups, other organizations, looking at the historical performance that you've had with these communities and groups, or maybe big events in the community, looking at the data you have, do we know the median income? Are there pockets where we have a lot of memberships based off our internal data and areas that we know that would make sense with our products and services? Being able to communicate to that community is really important. So that access, what channels are we using? Are we doing paid media? Do we have collaboration with certain organizations that we can market through their channels? And then being included throughout any kind of area or any of those big staples that happen within that community. So I think, the big events at Summerfest that may happen, maybe it's the Economic Development Council. And so, anytime a new business is going to pop up because you're on the board there and you sit there or you attend all the meetings. Everything is scalable. Julie, as you know, I've worked at different size credit unions as well. And we may not all have the budget for a large scale mailing because those are really costly, but go digital, go green. Think of using another organization's following. Maybe they have thousands of followers on social media. Do something completely digital, hand it to them and see if they'll promote it with all their followers. So everything is really scalable. Within the box you have, you just got to think a little bit outside of the box and use those relationships, really leverage those relationships, but
Yes.
everything's scalable.
It sure is. And I know that, you continue to inspire me with creative campaigns and different things you're doing. So I love following along and seeing what you're doing, Deliana. So I think one of the main points here is create your pillars, right? Maybe use this as a guide for some inspiration, but create some pillars. We're recording this the first part of 2024. It's a great time to think about how can I formalize this a little bit more. And
Mhm.
to your point, and what you've done is you've really been able to demonstrate to your executive team, your leadership team, the value that you're bringing. So it's a win for the community, your members, it's a win for your executive team, and it's a win for you in your career as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Well, all of us at in the BD Now community, we are lifelong learners, and we love to follow people and learn. So part of the BD Now channel, the last question I have for you is, who do you follow? Who inspires you
Oh,
around
I
the
love
world, locally? So yeah, share with us who inspires you. Who do you follow?
I love that question, Julie. And there's so many greats out there, but one of my favorites is Guy Kawasaki. He was one of the original Apple employees that was responsible for marketing like the Macintosh computer back in 1984. And he's the chief evangelist of Canva right now. And he has a podcast called Remarkable People. I just really align with his values and his leadership style. And I just think he has so much great insight, such a positive attitude, and just a lot of passion and grit. So I really recommend following Guy Kawasaki.
That's fantastic.
Mhm.
I know him, but I've never listened to the
Mhm.
podcast. So I'm excited to tune in and learn
Mhm.
from Guy.
Mhm.
Um, all right, Deliana, thank you so much for being the very first guest.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, you've inspired us, and keep inspiring, friends, and we'll see you next time.